The sound of a dead man's voice would bring Ellen DeGeneres to her knees. The Ellen DeGeneres Show was in full swing at the Warner Brothers studio in Burbank. Ellen danced her way onto the stage, wearing her signature white button-down and dark blazer, the audience of 300 erupting in their usual enthusiastic applause. The energy was infectious as always, people laughing, dancing, completely absorbed in the joy that Ellen had perfected over nearly 2 decades of daytime television. "Welcome, welcome, everybody," Ellen called out, her smile as bright as the studio lights that illuminated her stage. The backdrop showed its familiar blue sky with white clouds, and the iconic white chairs sat ready for another heartwarming interview. "We have such an amazing show today. I've got some incredible guests, some surprises, and as always, we're going to have some fun." The cameras captured every moment of Ellen's opening monologue as she worked the crowd with her natural charm. Behind the scenes, producers monitored their rundown, crew members adjusted equipment, and everything flowed with the precision of a well-oiled machine. It was Tuesday afternoon, and this was supposed to be just another feel-good episode. In the green room, 24-year-old Jake Thompson sat quietly in the corner, clutching his phone like it contained the most precious thing in the world. Which, in a way, it did. The black iPhone had been his constant companion for 3 months now, not because he used it constantly, but because of what it held. One voicemail, one message he had never listened to, one final attempt at connection from someone who would never call again. The green room buzzed with typical pre-show energy around him. Other guests chatted nervously with production assistants, some scrolling through social media to calm their nerves, others rehearsing their talking points. But Jake sat in his own bubble of silence, lost in memory, the weight of the unheard message pressing down on him like a physical force. Jake's older brother Marcus had been deployed in Afghanistan for 8 months when the call came in. It was March 15th, 2:47 p.m. Pacific Time, a time and date burned into Jake's memory with surgical precision. Jake had been sitting in a board meeting at the marketing firm where he worked, presenting a campaign to potential clients. The conference room was filled with executives in expensive suits, all staring at charts and graphs, while Jake explained brand positioning strategies. When his phone buzzed with Marcus's ringtone, Hotel California by the Eagles, their dad's favorite song that Marcus had adopted as his own, Jake had glanced at the screen but couldn't answer. The presentation was too important, his boss was watching, and Marcus called regularly anyway. They talked every few days, Marcus always checking in on his little brother, even from thousands of miles away. Jake figured he'd call back in an hour when the meeting ended, except he never got the chance. 4 hours. Later, 2 military officers arrived at Jake's apartment door. Marcus Thompson, Staff Sergeant, United States Army, had been killed in an improvised explosive device attack while on patrol. He was 26 years old. He would never see Jake's face again, never attend Jake's wedding, never meet his future nephews or nieces. And Jake would never hear his brother's voice again, except for that one voicemail that sat unheard on his phone like a ghost trapped in digital amber. The Thompson brothers had been inseparable growing up in a small town outside Denver. Marcus was the adventurous one, always climbing higher trees, riding his bike faster. Jake was more cautious, preferring books to bikes, but he followed Marcus everywhere anyway. When their father died when Jake was 16, Marcus stepped into a role he was too young for, but embraced without question. He became Jake's protector, mentor, and best friend all at once. For 3 months, Jake had carried the phone everywhere. He'd stare at the voicemail notification, one unheard message from Marcus Thompson, March 15th, 2:47 p.m. His thumb would hover over the play button dozens of times each day, but he could never press it. Because once he heard it, that would be it. The last new words he would ever hear from his brother would be gone forever. A production assistant knocked on the green room door. "Jake, you're up in 2 minutes. You ready?" Jake nodded, though ready felt impossible. He'd applied to be on Ellen's show after months of his friends and family telling him he needed to talk to someone about what he was going through. Ellen felt safe somehow. Jake had watched her show with Marcus during his home visits, and Marcus always said, "She actually listens to people." "Please welcome Jake Thompson," Ellen announced, and Jake walked onto the stage. The audience applauded warmly as Jake made his way to the white chair across from Ellen. The studio lights were brighter than he'd expected, and for a moment he felt overwhelmed by the sheer energy of the place. But when Ellen stood to greet him with that genuine smile, he felt some of his tension ease. "Hi, Jake," Ellen said, giving him a quick hug before they both sat down. "How are you doing? First time on television?" "Yeah, first time," Jake replied, his voice steadier than he'd expected. "I'm nervous, but also grateful to be here." Ellen had a gift for reading people, and she could see something heavy in Jake's eyes. This wasn't the usual pre-show nerves. This was deeper. "Tell us a little about yourself. What do you do?" Jake took a breath. "I work in marketing in Los Angeles, but that's not really why I'm here." He paused, looking down at his hands. "I'm here because of my brother Marcus." The audience grew quiet, sensing the shift in tone. Ellen leaned forward slightly. "Tell me about Marcus." "He was my older brother, my best friend, really. 2 years older than me, but he always looked out for me like I was still a little kid." Jake's voice carried both love and pain. "He was serving in Afghanistan. He was supposed to come home in 2 months. Ellen's expression immediately softened. "Was?" Jake nodded, his throat tightening. "He was killed 3 months ago. IED attack while he was on patrol." The studio fell completely silent. Ellen reached over and placed her hand on Jake's arm. "I'm so sorry, Jake. I'm so sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Jake whispered, then looked up at Ellen with eyes that held a weight far beyond his 24 years. "But there's something else, something I've never told anyone." Ellen waited, giving him space to continue. Jake pulled out his phone, his hands trembling slightly. "The day Marcus died, he called me. I was in a meeting, couldn't answer. He left a voicemail." Jake's voice cracked. "I've never listened to it." The audience was holding its breath. Ellen's eyes widened with understanding and compassion. "I can't," Jake continued, tears starting to form. "Because once I hear it, that's it. That's the last time I'll ever hear something new from him, and I'm not ready for that to be over." Ellen was quiet for a long moment, feeling the weight of what Jake had just shared. The cameras captured the silence, the studio atmosphere thick with emotion. "How long has the voicemail been there?" Ellen asked gently. 3 months, 2 weeks, and 4 days, Jake said without hesitation. "I know exactly because I look at it every day. I pick up my phone, I see his name, and I just freeze." Ellen understood this wasn't just about grief. This was about holding on to the last piece of someone you love, terrified that experiencing it would mean letting go completely. "Jake," Ellen said softly, "what do you think Marcus would want you to do?" Jake wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "He'd probably tell me to stop being an idiot and just listen to it. Marcus was always the practical one. He used to say, 'I overthought everything.'" A small smile crossed Jake's face. "When we were kids, I used to save the last bite of my favorite foods because I didn't want them to be over. Marcus would always steal it and say, 'Jake, you can't save good things forever. They're supposed to be enjoyed.'" Ellen felt tears forming in her own eyes. "That sounds like wise big brother advice." "It was," Jake said, "about everything. When I was scared to ask someone to prom, when I was nervous about job interviews, when I was thinking about moving to L.A., he always pushed me to stop being afraid and just live." The studio was completely silent now, 300 people collectively holding their breath as they witnessed this intimate moment of grief and love. Ellen made a decision that would define this moment forever. She stood up from her chair and moved to sit directly next to Jake on his chair arm, close enough to offer comfort, but not so close as to crowd him. "Jake," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, but picked up clearly by her microphone. "Do you want to listen to it? Here, now, with all of us? You don't have to be alone with whatever Marcus wanted to tell you." Jake looked up at Ellen, then out at the audience. 300 strangers who had somehow become a family in this moment, all willing to hold space for his pain. "I think," Jake said slowly, "I think Marcus would like that. He always said everything was better when you had people who cared about you nearby." Ellen nodded. "Then let's listen together. Whatever he has to say, we'll hear it with you." Jake's hands shook as he unlocked his phone and navigated to his voicemail. There it was, exactly where it had been for 3 months. Marcus Thompson, March 15th, 2:47 p.m. His thumb hovered over the play button. The studio held its collective breath. 300 people who had come for entertainment found themselves witnesses to something far more profound. Even the camera operators who had filmed thousands of interviews leaned in closer. The production crew in the control room had stopped their usual chatter. "I'm scared," he whispered, his voice barely audible, but picked up clearly by his wireless microphone. "No," Ellen replied, her voice full of compassion, "but you're not alone. Whatever Marcus has to say, we'll all hear it with you. You don't have to carry this by yourself anymore." Jake looked out at the audience one more time. These strangers had somehow become his support system in this moment, their faces reflecting the same love and encouragement he used to see in Marcus's eyes. Some were crying already, just from witnessing his courage. Jake pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the studio through Jake's phone speaker, clear and warm and impossibly alive. "Hey, little brother, it's me. I know you're probably in some boring meeting right now, wearing that blue tie I got you for Christmas, but I just wanted to call and tell you something." Jake's face crumpled as he heard his brother's voice for the first time in 3 months. Ellen wrapped her arm around his shoulders, and he could hear soft gasps and sobs from the audience as they were pulled into this intimate moment. Marcus continued, his voice carrying that familiar mix of affection and teasing. "I was just thinking about when we were kids and you used to follow me everywhere. Remember how annoying I thought it was? You'd copy everything I did, want to go everywhere I went. Mom used to call you my little shadow." Jake was crying now, but also smiling through his tears as the memory washed over him. "Well, I was wrong, Jake. Having you follow me around was the best part of growing up. You made me want to be better because I knew you were watching. And even though I'm thousands of miles away right now, I still feel like you're right here with me, still making me want to be the kind of man you can be proud to call your brother." The audience was openly crying now, understanding they were witnessing something sacred, something that transcended entertainment and touched the very core of human love. "I love you, little brother. I'm proud of the man you've become, and I can't wait to come home and bug you some more. Save me some of Mom's lasagna, okay? And stop overthinking everything. Just live your life. I'll be home soon. Love you, Jake." The voicemail ended, leaving the studio in profound silence. Jake was sobbing now, but through his tears, he was smiling. "He said he loved me," he whispered. "The last thing he ever said to me was that he loved me. And he told me to stop overthinking everything." Ellen was crying too, no longer the polished television host, but simply a human being sharing in another's grief and gratitude. She reached over and took Jake's hand. "He did, Jake. And you know what? That wasn't the last thing he said to you." Jake looked at her, confused through his tears. "That was the last thing he got to record for you," Ellen said, her voice gentle but strong. "But Marcus is still talking to you every day. Every time you remember his advice, every time you hear his favorite song, every time you do something brave because he taught you how, that's Marcus still talking to you." She turned to address the camera directly, tears streaming down her face, but her voice clear and powerful. "Love doesn't end with death, it just changes frequency, and Jake, your brother's love is still broadcasting loud and clear." The audience rose to their feet in spontaneous applause, not the typical talk show applause, but something deeper, recognition of courage, of love, of the profound connection between two brothers that not even death could break. As the cameras captured this extraordinary moment, Ellen made another unprecedented decision. She asked her producers to play Marcus's voicemail one more time, letting his voice fill the studio again as a reminder that love transcends physical presence. The episode aired exactly as it happened, and within hours, Rush's Marcus voicemail was trending worldwide. Thousands of people shared their own stories of unheard voicemails, unread messages, final words that had taken courage to hear. Jake returned to Ellen's show 6 months later, not as a grieving brother frozen by fear, but as someone who had learned to carry his brother's love forward. He had started a foundation to help military families cope with loss. "How are you doing?" Ellen asked during his return visit. "Better," Jake said. "I listen to the voicemail every day now, sometimes multiple times. And you know what I realized? It's not the last thing Marcus said to me. Every day I try to live by his example. Every time I help someone else because that's what he would do. That's Marcus still talking to me." Jake pulled out his phone again, but this time without trembling hands. "I recorded a message back to him," he said. "I know he can't hear it, but it felt important to say." "What did you tell him?" Jake smiled. "I told him I finally stopped saving the good things. I told him I'm living. Because sometimes the most profound goodbye isn't an ending. It's permission to keep living with love instead of fear. And sometimes a voice from beyond can teach us that the best way to honor someone's memory isn't to preserve it untouched, but to let it change us, guide us, and inspire us to love more fearlessly." Marcus Thompson's final gift to his little brother wasn't just those words of love captured in a voicemail. It was the reminder that love transcends death, that courage grows from connection, and that the best way to say goodbye is to never stop saying hello to the ways our loved ones live on in us.